Imagine closing your eyes and drifting backward, not just in years, but in eons, to a time when Earth itself breathed differently. A world before cities, before roads, before human memory. A world that existed in a quiet, slow rhythm of wind and stone, where life moved gently, unfolding like soft shadows across vast landscapes. This is the Earth of Pangea, a single, magnificent supercontinent stretching endlessly, where all the lands you know today were fused into one colossal expanse. High above, the camera of your mind glides over a land that seems impossibly vast. Mountains rise like folded wrinkles on the skin of the planet, valleys open into deep shadows, and deserts stretch endlessly, kissed by warm, dusty winds. The sky holds a reddish hue, deep and meditative, casting a soft, reflective glow on the land below. Oceans pulse at the edges, slow and rhythmic, breathing in long, steady waves, as if inhaling the memory of a world that is not yet fragmented. You might ask yourself, what did the world dream of then? How did life whisper its stories across this unified expanse? There were no borders, no divisions, only a vast mosaic of rivers, forests, deserts, and mountains, each flowing naturally into the next, each creating the stage for a planet still learning its own possibilities. The air would have been thick with humidity in some places, dry and parched in others. Storms rolled across the oceans, shaping coastlines in imperceptible rhythms, while the sun cast slow, amber light across endless plains. In this quiet meditation, we begin to feel the scale of something almost impossible to comprehend. A single landmass, larger than any continent today, carrying the weight of oceans and atmosphere, and yet alive with subtle, almost imperceptible motion. Perhaps if we listen carefully, we can hear it, the gentle hum of a planet preparing itself for the ages to come. Each ridge, each river, each whispering forest leaf is part of a story older than memory, a story that would unfold over millions of years. Consider the stillness of the deserts, stretching thousands of kilometers with no human hand to mark them. Consider the distant forests, dark and mysterious, alive with creatures that leave barely a trace, and the oceans, rolling endlessly along the shores, quietly shaping climates, currents, and lives without notice. In this vast silence, Pangea exists both as a physical presence and a dream of unity, of balance, of beginnings that would echo through the eon. Tonight, as we drift into this ancient world, allow your mind to float over rivers that have never known bridges, over plains that have never known fences, and over forests that have never known human hand. Feel the slow breath of earth beneath you, the pulse of a supercontinent that holds within it the potential for life in every form yet to come. Let the questions rise gently. What stories did this world tell before humans arrived to listen? What quiet lessons did it carry in its stones, its winds, its waters? And perhaps, if we are very still and very patient, we might begin to sense the memory of unity that lived here long before memory itself was possible. In this quiet reflection, we invite ourselves into a rhythm unlike any other, a slow meditative journey through a planet at peace with its own vastness. And as your mind floats above this singular land, consider the possibility that even the smallest leaf, the faintest ripple, the softest whisper of wind is part of a story far larger than we can yet imagine, a story we are only beginning to remember. Tonight, we travel back 300 million years to an Earth that feels both familiar and impossibly alien. The continents you know, North America, Africa, Asia, South America, have yet to take their modern forms. Instead, they are fused into one immense landmass, Pangea, stretching from pole to pole, surrounded by a single, vast ocean, Panthalassa. The planet is a delicate balance of extremes, yet it pulses with quiet life. The atmosphere itself seems different, heavier, richer, carrying a warmth that blankets the land. Thick clouds coil lazily above the horizon, their shadows stretching across golden deserts and dense forests alike. Sunlight filters through the haze in soft, shimmering beams, making the leaves of towering trees glisten and casting long, gentle shadows across undulating plains. The air is humid in some regions, dry and parched in others, carrying the scent of damp earth, resin, and salt from the distant oceans. Oceans are deeper, darker, and filled with life we barely begin to imagine. Currents flow like invisible rivers, transporting nutrients and shaping climates in ways both subtle and dramatic. The Tethys Sea is forming, carving gentle inlets along the landmass, giving rise to coastlines that will one day vanish. The wind carries the distant roar of storms, yet they are not chaotic. They are rhythmic, part of a planetary heartbeat that has existed for millions of years. Life has already begun to flourish across this unified continent. Giant ferns and towering conifers dominate the forests, their fronds brushing against the sky. Insects the size of birds flit through thick, golden mist, while early amphibians and reptiles wander cautiously through the undergrowth. These creatures move with a deliberate patience, unaware of the epochs that will eventually transform them into entirely new species. The world is still learning how life can exist on such a scale, how ecosystems can flourish in harmony with shifting climates and vast oceans. Imagine gliding above this ancient landscape. Below you, rivers snake slowly across the land, their waters dark and rich, feeding sprawling wetlands teeming with life. Hills rise and fall like gentle waves frozen in stone. Forests breathe in misty sighs, and deserts stretch endlessly, dotted with stones that shimmer in the sunlight. Here, the sky and land exist in perfect dialogue, each shaping the other, each contributing to the slow, patient rhythm of life. The contrast of environments is striking. Some regions are scorched by relentless sun, while others are shrouded in dense fog, their humidity almost tangible. Monsoon winds sweep across coastal belts, bringing sudden rain that nourishes the forests and rivers, while deserts endure long, silent droughts. Earth's rotation and tilt create seasons unlike those we know today, slightly longer, subtly more extreme, yet part of a natural order that has persisted for millions of years. And in this quiet, meditative exploration, we begin to sense the interconnectedness of all things. Every insect, every tree, every breath of wind plays a role in maintaining the fragile equilibrium of this ancient world. There is a rhythm here, slow and hypnotic, inviting us to witness the planet's life without rushing, without interruption. We are observers of a world still in formation, still discovering its potential, yet already astonishing in its complexity and beauty. As the golden haze shimmers across forests and plains, and as distant oceans ripple under starlight yet unseen, we are reminded that this planet, though ancient, is alive. Every ridge, every river, every storm is part of a story that stretches across millions of years, a story that begins to unfold as we continue our journey through Pangea, exploring not just its land, but its atmosphere, its oceans, and the intricate tapestry of life that calls it home. Long before the first reptiles walked the forests of Pangea, the Earth was already moving, shaping itself with a quiet patience that spans millions of years. Deep below the surface, immense tectonic plates drifted slowly, gliding over the molten mantle like massive, unseen glaciers. These movements were imperceptible to the creatures above, yet they carried with them the power to unite continents, to fold mountains, and to reshape oceans. Picture, if you will, the slow collision of land masses. Imagine two enormous plates inching toward each other over eons, their edges buckling and folding, forming the first wrinkles of what would become the Appalachian Mountains. Volcanoes rumbled quietly, spewing lava that cooled into jagged ridges, creating both destruction and renewal. Every eruption, every tremor was part of a larger symphony, orchestrating the planet's gradual journey toward a single vast supercontinent. The assembly of Pangea was not sudden. It was a delicate choreography of immense scales, a patient alignment that brought together continents separated by oceans for millions of years. North America drifted westward, Europe and Africa slowly collided, and South America inched closer to the southern edges, forming chains of mountains and basins along the way. The land moved like living, breathing matter, a process so slow that no eye could see it, yet so powerful that it transformed the face of the planet. Volcano systems dotted the landscape, their molten hearts glowing through the thin crust. Lava fountains lit up the night sky, rivers of fire flowing across the land, slowly cooling to create fertile plains and rugged highlands. The air carried the scent of sulfur and ash, mingling with the dampness of nearby swamps and the salt of distant seas. These molten veins were not mere destruction. They were the veins of a planet in creation, shaping valleys, ridges, and plains that would become home to untold forms of life. Mountains rose and fell, glaciers advanced and receded, and the oceans adjusted to the changing contours of the land. Every movement, every shift contributed to a slowly emerging balance. The supercontinent was not just a collection of land, It was a living, breathing entity shaped by forces both violent and gentle, chaotic and precise. Even as life began to flourish on its surface, the earth below continued its patient work, sculpting a world that would endure for millions of years. From above, the supercontinent appeared almost seamless, a vast expanse of forests, deserts, and plains stretching as far as the eye could see. Rivers cut their slow paths, winding through valleys formed by the gentle collisions of continents. The atmosphere responded to the land's contours. Winds swept across plains and deserts, storms brewed over oceans, and clouds gathered over mountain ranges. Ooh! The Earth's formation toward unity was not merely a geological process, it was a living story written in stone, water, and air. As we drift above Pangea, we begin to see the magnitude of these slow transformations. The planet itself is in motion, preparing for the next great chapters of its history. Life, still fragile and young, will soon encounter new habitats shaped by the tectonic symphony beneath its feet. Rivers, forests, deserts, and mountains will become stages upon which evolution will play its endless drama. In this quiet reflection, we understand that Pangea is more than land joined together. It is a testament to the power of patient forces, to the beauty of slow creation. Every fold of rock, every rise of a mountain, every cooling lava river tells a story of a planet preparing itself, shaping a world where life could flourish in ways both familiar and extraordinary. Pangea was a world of contrasts, where the climate painted extremes across its vast expanse. From the equatorial tropics to the distant poles, the supercontinent's weather systems were as dramatic as the landscapes themselves, shaping life and land with a quiet, inexorable rhythm. Imagine standing on a high plateau, feeling the scorching heat of the day pressing down on sun-baked soil, only to be met by freezing nights as darkness sweeps across the horizon. This was a world where the sky could not be taken for granted, where winds carried whispers of distant oceans and clouds gathered like drifting veils of silver and gray. Monsoons, immense and sweeping, carved their way across the continent. For months, they would bring torrential rains, feeding rivers that wound like silver threads through forests and swamps. Coastal regions glimmered with moisture, golden haze rising from the soil as the sun pierced through the clouds. Inland, however, vast deserts stretched endlessly, sands rippling in patterns that spoke of ancient winds and unyielding sun. Here, the earth seemed to hold its breath, the quiet heat a constant companion to the wanderers of these arid plains. Seasonal contrasts were striking. Days burned with relentless warmth, while nights descended with a chilling clarity, revealing stars that burned brighter in the thin, humid air. In some regions, humidity clung to the land like a gentle fog, shrouding forests in a soft glow as insects and early reptiles stirred beneath the canopy. Rivers and lakes mirrored the skies, reflecting the slow movements of clouds and the faint glimmer of distant mountains. Storms could rise from the oceans like living walls, their far-off thunder carrying across thousands of kilometers, a reminder of the planet's restless energy. The supercontinent's size intensified these extremes. Inland areas experienced vast temperature swings, while coastal belts enjoyed moderated climates, lush with vegetation and teeming with life. Winds traveled unimpeded across plains and deserts, sometimes forming colossal storms that could stretch for days, reshaping the sands and leaving patterns only visible to those patient enough to watch the land slowly respond. The sky itself became a canvas for shifting hues, purple-red sunsets spilling across half the horizon, clouds tinged with gold and amber, and lightning flickering in the distance like the slow heartbeat of the planet. Even in this variety, there was a certain calmness, a quiet poetry in the climate of Pangea. The extremes were not chaotic. They were measured, deliberate, part of a slow rhythm that guided life to adapt, to flourish, to find its niche within the supercontinent's vast expanse. Forests breathed mist into the air, deserts shimmered under relentless sun, and the ocean's edge whispered secrets carried inland by persistent winds. In this climate, life learned patience and resilience. Creatures of all sizes, from tiny insects to emerging reptiles, adapted to survive the mercurial shifts between humidity and dryness, warmth and cold. The supercontinent was alive, not just with movement beneath its crust, but with the flowing, shifting dance of its atmosphere. Every storm, every breeze, every fading sunset told a story of balance, of survival, of the quiet, unstoppable march of time. As we drift over deserts, forests, and coasts, we see that Pangea's climate was more than weather. It was a sculptor shaping land and life alike, guiding evolution's hand in ways both subtle and profound. The planet's heartbeat echoed in the rhythm of monsoons and deserts, in the calm lapping of inland seas, and in the gentle breathing of an earth slowly molding itself toward the next great chapter of life. The land of Pangea was awakening with life, yet it was a world still distant from the age of dinosaurs that would later dominate its plains. Here, the first reptiles emerged cautiously from damp, shadowed corners of the forests, their small, scaly forms slipping silently over moss-covered logs and through ferns taller than themselves. Amphibians, the earlier travelers of the land, lingered near water, their movements measured, their calls blending into the soft chorus of a planet alive with subtle sound. Forests stretched endlessly, their dense canopies forming vast green oceans. Giant ferns and towering horsetails swayed in slow rhythms as though breathing with the wind. Sunlight filtered through layers of foliage, casting dappled shadows that shifted as the hours passed. Mist rose from the forest floor in delicate ribbons, curling around ancient trunks and the low-lying plants that carpeted the land. In these moments, the world felt both intimate and immense, an ecosystem thriving quietly under a warm, golden haze. Giant insects roamed the forests, their wings shimmering in the filtered sunlight, creating soft, rhythmic sounds as they moved from plant to plant. Dragonflies the size of small birds hovered over streams, their delicate bodies reflecting the glimmers of sunlight. Beetles, crickets, and early arachnids filled the undergrowth with slow, methodical motion, each playing its part in a balanced, primordial symphony. Life here was patient, deliberate, and resilient. Early reptiles, small yet determined, were beginning to explore further from the water's edge. Their slow movements through dense foliage allowed them to hunt, to hide, and to survive in a land where every shadow might conceal a predator or prey. Their scales glinted faintly in the diffused light, and their silent journeys left barely a trace in the soft soil. Around them, primitive ferns and cycads formed labyrinths of green, sheltering creatures and hiding life that was yet to be discovered. Rivers wound through this ancient landscape, reflecting the skies and feeding the forests with constant, life-giving moisture. Why? Along their banks, early amphibians stretched and rested, while insects darted across the water's surface. The air was heavy with humidity, carrying the earthy sense of growth, decay, and the perpetual cycle of life and death. In this delicate balance, evolution was quietly unfolding, shaping creatures that would one day inherit the supercontinent in new forms. There was a serenity in observing this slow, deliberate life. No sudden eruptions of violence or dramatic hunts, only the soft rhythms of existence. The gentle flap of enormous wings, the rustle of foliage as reptiles moved, the quiet trickle of streams that sustained all living things. Pangea's forests were not merely habitats. They were sanctuaries of continuity, places where the slow passage of time allowed life to adapt, experiment, and survive in harmony with a changing world. Even the smallest creatures contributed to the unfolding story. Beetles tunneling through soil, larvae feeding on decaying plants, early insects pollinating primitive flowers. They all participated in the gentle orchestration of life. The forests, with their towering ferns, cycads, and seed-bearing plants, became the stage for evolution's first experiments with resilience, mobility, and survival on land. As we drift above this vast green expanse, the interconnectedness of life becomes clear. The forests breathe, the rivers shimmer, and creatures move with a slow, meditative grace. Every leaf, every scale, every wing tells a story of survival and adaptation, of a world preparing for greater changes to come. In this quiet, patient rhythm, the first true land dwellers of Pangea thrive, shaping the future in ways we are only beginning to understand. Amid the vast forests and sprawling plains of Pangea, a new chapter of life quietly began. Small, almost fragile creatures, the earliest dinosaurs, stepped cautiously into existence. They were not yet the towering predators that would one day dominate the landscape. Instead, they were modest, bird-like forms, weaving through ferns and low shrubs, their movements deliberate and unhurried. These early dinosaurs were explorers in a world that had only recently begun to expand beyond the rhythms of amphibians and primitive reptiles. The land itself seemed to breathe with their arrival. Endless plains stretched beneath lavender dawns, dusted with morning mist that curled along the edges of rivers and wetlands. Herds of these small dinosaurs moved with silent cohesion, each step soft against the soil, each movement blending seamlessly into the slow pulse of the earth. Predators lurked in shadowed groves, yet the danger was subtle, a quiet tension woven into the fabric of daily existence rather than explosive confrontation. Across the plains, the early dinosaurs found opportunity in a supercontinent that connected every corner of the earth. The unity of Pangea allowed species to spread, to explore distant forests and deserts without interruption, to discover new niches in a world that was simultaneously vast and intimate. They traveled along riverbanks under towering trees and across sun-baked clearings, their curiosity shaping survival as much as instinct did. The mornings were slow and reflective, the air heavy with dew and the soft hum of unseen insects. Early dinosaurs raised their heads, alert yet unhurried, sensing movement through subtle vibrations in the soil. Their eyes reflected the soft, diffused light of early day, and their delicate footsteps left patterns in the moist earth that would vanish as quickly as the sun climbed higher. In this silent world, every gesture and motion carried significance, adaptation, awareness, and the careful balance of life. Even in quiet moments, the supercontinent's life was interconnected. Streams teemed with small aquatic creatures, amphibians rested at their banks, and the forests hummed with the movement of insects and reptiles. Dinosaurs, though newly arrived, became threads in this intricate tapestry. They foraged, explored, and evaded, each action slow and methodical, a meditation on survival in a land that had no hurry but endless opportunity. The landscapes themselves mirrored the gentle pace of life. Rolling plains shimmered under the morning haze, dotted with clusters of cycads and fern forests that swayed with the wind. Lakes reflected the pale lavender sky, mirroring the slow, serene rhythm of early life. Hills rose softly in the distance, and the occasional mountain cast long, cooling shadows across the land, reminding all inhabitants of the enduring presence of Earth itself. These first dinosaurs, though small and quiet, held within them the seeds of an evolutionary revolution. They adapted to forests, plains, and riverbanks alike, learning, surviving, and slowly shaping the future. The stillness of Pangea offered them a canvas upon which evolution painted patiently, with each generation moving further along the lines of possibility, slowly experimenting with form, movement, and behavior. As night fell, these creatures settled in the cover of ferns, the soft wind carrying their faint calls through the humid air. The land grew silent, save for the distant rush of rivers and the whisper of leaves. Under the glow of ancient stars, the supercontinent held its first dinosaur inhabitants gently, like a cradle, preparing them for the vast, unfolding story of life that would one day come to define the planet. Beyond the edges of Pangea, the great ocean Panthalassa stretched endlessly, a vast expanse of deep blue that seemed to hold the secrets of the entire planet. Its surface shimmered under the soft light of the sun, waves moving with a languid rhythm, each ripple a gentle breath of the earth. There was a calm here that contrasted with the land, a quiet, almost sacred stillness that invited reflection. This ocean was not merely water. It was a living, breathing entity, vast and mysterious, embracing the supercontinent with its slow, eternal pulse. Beneath the surface, the waters teemed with life, both alien and mesmerizing. Ancient fish, some glowing faintly in the twilight depths, drifted silently, their movements deliberate and hypnotic. Translucent jellyfish floated like drifting lanterns, pulsing softly as if marking time in a rhythm older than memory. Predatory forms glided through shadowed corridors of water, their presence a silent reminder that life, even in this tranquil realm, thrived in both wonder and quiet danger. The Tethys Sea, a smaller but no less significant body of water, threaded its way through Pangea like a delicate vein. It connected distant shores, providing life-giving currents that carried nutrients and warmth to every corner it touched. Along its shallow edges, coral-like structures flourished, teeming with small aquatic creatures, forming intricate ecosystems where every movement, every pulse of water, mattered. Panthalassa's vastness created a meditative rhythm that echoed across the supercontinent. Long swells rolled towards distant shores, breaking gently against the coastlines of Pangea, leaving behind foamy trails and a soft, salty fragrance that mingled with the warm, dusty winds of the land. Waves lapped against rocky shores and sandy beaches alike, each one a quiet lullaby, a reminder that Earth itself breathed through oceans as much as through mountains and forests. Above, the sky reflected the ocean's serenity. The sun glimmered like a molten coin, casting elongated reflections that stretched to the horizon, while the clouds drifted lazily, mirrored in the calm waters below. The interplay of light and water created a tapestry of soft colors, blues, silvers, and occasional hints of violet, painting a serene canvas for life both above and beneath the waves. Even the motion of the ocean's depths told a story. Currents moved like invisible highways, guiding creatures over vast distances, connecting distant ecosystems, and shaping the distribution of life in ways both subtle and profound. The dance of water, wind, and life formed a slow, deliberate rhythm, one that the earliest civilizations, if they existed, might have felt as the heartbeat of their world. In the hush of night, the ocean became even more enchanting. Moonlight scattered across its surface, silvering the gentle waves, while nocturnal creatures stirred below. Some drifted close to the surface, tentacles reaching like delicate fingers towards the starlight, while others glided silently through the inky darkness, unseen yet undeniably present. The ocean held secrets older than continents, mysteries that would persist long after Pangea itself began to drift apart. Through these immense waters, the story of life continued, subtle yet enduring. Pangea and the Tethys Sea were not mere backdrops. They were active participants in the narrative of Earth. They shaped climates, influenced migration, and nurtured life, all while maintaining a calm, eternal patience. They whispered to the land, their slow pulses a timeless rhythm of connection, continuity, and quiet majesty. As the sun sank slowly behind the distant horizons of Pangea, the land was bathed in a warm, fading glow, and the first hints of night began to settle across the supercontinent. Darkness came not as a sudden veil, but as a gentle transition, a soft curtain pulled across the sky. Stars began to twinkle, faint at first, then growing brighter as the veil of day thinned, revealing a cosmos that seemed deeper, more intimate than the one we know today. Without the interference of artificial lights, the night sky unfolded in its full, magnificent splendor. The Milky Way stretched in a luminous river across the heavens, each star a whisper from the distant past, each constellation a guide for creatures moving in the shadowed world below. Meteor trails glided silently across the darkness, leaving ephemeral streaks of silver that vanished almost as quickly as they appeared, yet lingered long in the mind's eye. In this ancient darkness, the night was alive with subtle movement. Gentle winds rustled through forests and across plains, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and vegetation. Nocturnal creatures stirred in the underbrush, their quiet calls and footsteps harmonizing with the rhythmic sigh of the planet itself. Early reptiles and insects moved cautiously beneath the moonlight, shadows passing through silvered ferns and mist-laden valleys. The constellations above would have looked familiar in some ways, yet subtly different, shifted by hundreds of millions of years of celestial drift. Some stars absent in today's sky shone brightly, while others we know today had yet to emerge. This was a sky both alien and profoundly intimate, a reminder that the universe continues its slow, unceasing dance long after any single life or civilization. The calm of the night invited reflection. Under this vast dome of stars, the supercontinent seemed simultaneously immense and fragile, a singular landmass breathing beneath the quiet heavens. Oceans mirrored the celestial display, waves catching and scattering light, turning the water's surface into a rippling mosaic of silver and indigo. Pangea and the Tethys Sea absorbed the moonlight, holding it like a gentle pulse that echoed across continents and coasts. As darkness deepened, subtle changes occurred in the air. Temperature shifted, dew formed on leaves, and the atmosphere, heavy with moisture in some regions, shimmered faintly in the lunar glow. Even in the vast emptiness of night, life continued its quiet rhythm, an unbroken chain of existence connecting the earliest moments of the supercontinent to the distant future. The stars seemed to speak of eternity, their steady light a testament to time's gentle passage. For the inhabitants of Pangea, even the smallest creature might have felt the wonder of this infinite canopy, a universe that remained constant even as the land beneath them slowly shifted, preparing for the eventual division of continents. Night, in this sense, was more than a pause between days. It was a sanctuary, a mirror of the planet's silent heartbeat, a canvas for reflection, and a gentle invitation to dream. Here, in this ancient darkness, one could almost sense the universe itself breathing. Every flicker of starlight, every faint whisper of wind, every gentle lap of waves against the coast told a story of patience, of quiet endurance, and of the timeless connection between Earth and the cosmos. The night of Pangea was a lullaby, a gentle guide toward introspection, rest, and the serene understanding that the world is vast, yet intimately connected. As the first blush of dawn stretched across Pangea, the supercontinent stirred gently as if awakening from a deep, uninterrupted dream. Morning light spilled across the vast landscapes, tinting mountains, forests, and deserts with soft hues of pink and gold. The rotation of the earth carried with it subtle changes in temperature and humidity, and the world seemed to breathe in long, slow cycles, each day a quiet rhythm repeating itself with delicate precision. The air was thick with the warmth of the rising sun. Mingling with the lingering moisture of night, mist hovered over river valleys, weaving between towering ferns and the trunks of colossal trees, settling like a soft veil that kissed the earth lightly. Across the plains, early reptiles began to emerge from their nocturnal shelters, moving slowly as the land warmed beneath their limbs. The hum of insects gradually grew louder, a chorus announcing the beginning of another day. Seasons were marked not by abrupt changes, but by gradual, almost imperceptible shifts. Monsoon rains rolled in from distant oceans, bringing life-giving water to parched lands. The sun's angle, the length of daylight, the whisper of the wind, all worked in harmony to shape the delicate balance of ecosystems. Creatures moved in tandem with these natural rhythms, their lives orchestrated by the gentle heartbeat of the planet itself. The rotation of Pangea brought daily patterns that were both predictable and mesmerizing. Coastal regions basked in warm mornings and humid afternoons, while inland deserts experienced the quiet extremes of scorching sunlight and cool nights. Oceans lapped gently against the supercontinent's edges, their tides a slow and steady pulse, influencing currents and winds, connecting the land and sea in an endless dialogue. The forest swayed in response to the breeze, leaves rustling softly as if whispering secrets of the earth's slow, eternal life. Time on Pangea felt expansive. A single day could stretch long in perception, each movement of shadow and sunlight marked with deliberate slowness. The gentle transition from dawn to midday to dusk was a meditation on life itself, an invitation to observe, to feel, and to connect with the living, breathing planet. The creatures that roamed the land, from tiny insects to early reptiles, seemed to move in quiet awareness of the Earth's rhythm, each step measured, each pause meaningful. Even the most subtle phenomena, the shifting clouds, the shimmer of dew, the distant rumble of waves, played a role in the daily story of Pangea. The planet itself felt alive, an immense organism pulsing with energy and life. Every corner of the supercontinent, from humid forests to arid deserts, participated in this choreography of time and movement. The sun, the wind, and the water all spoke the same language, a language older than memory, older than life itself. In this gentle cadence, one could sense the profound interconnectedness of all things. Life and land, water and sky, day and night, they were parts of a single, immense system, a complex and harmonious whole. Observing this daily life, even from a distant perspective, invites a quiet contemplation, that the rhythm of the world, so ancient and patient, continues silently, shaping all existence with care and offering a reminder of the deep continuity that connects past, present, and future. Beneath the seemingly serene landscapes of Pangea, the planet's inner workings whispered of change. Deep below the surface, molten rock shifted and writhed, moving with a patience that spanned millions of years. The tectonic plates, once slowly converging to unite continents, now began a subtle dance of separation, their movements so gradual that no single creature could perceive them. Yet, this quiet unrest was the beginning of a transformation that would shape the future of the world. Subterranean rivers of magma pulsed beneath the crust, glowing faintly in the darkness like hidden arteries of fire. Over millennia, tiny fractures appeared, almost imperceptible to the eye, veins of energy tracing lines through the Earth's skin. Mountains, once solid and immovable, stretched and flexed, absorbing the tension that built up silently. The land that had once been a single, unified expanse began to prepare for its slow, inevitable division. The surface seemed calm, yet hints of the subterranean unrest appeared in subtle ways. Occasional tremors rippled across the landscape, soft vibrations that could be felt in the soles of giant reptiles' feet or in the sway of ancient trees rooted in fertile soil. Volcanoes, long dormant, began to stir, releasing faint wisps of smoke that blended into the hazy skies. Rivers shifted their courses imperceptibly, guided by forces beneath the crust that even the largest creatures could not understand. It was a world of patience and persistence. The cracks forming deep underground were not sudden or violent. They were gentle, almost meditative in their emergence. These fractures told a story of slow metamorphosis, a reminder that the Earth's history unfolds over eons, not days. Magma crept upward, pressing against rock, pushing apart the foundations of Pangea, foreshadowing the continents we would one day recognize. As the land prepared to divide, life continued its quiet existence, unaware of the distant tremors shaping its home. Forests stretched across the supercontinent, rivers meandered lazily through valleys, and animals moved in habitual patterns, each attuned to the rhythm of the earth above, while below, forces of unimaginable scale orchestrated the beginnings of a monumental change. The slow, persistent cracklings beneath the surface were a silent meditation on impermanence. Pangea, once a symbol of unity, began its subtle transformation, a testament to the enduring, patient energy that courses through the planet. The Earth's crust, though massive and seemingly solid, could bend and yield, reminding all who observed it, even in imagination, of the incredible timescales on which the world operates. In this quiet stage of transition, the supercontinent was both stable and dynamic, a paradox of permanence and impermanence coexisting in harmony. The prelude to division unfolded not in dramatic eruptions or cataclysmic events, but in the patient, meticulous, and deliberate movements of Earth's inner layers. Life, land, and sky continued their serene dance above, while the forces beneath the surface prepared to write the next chapter in the story of our planet. As Pangea slowly began to part, a quiet truth emerged from the depths of time. A truth that whispers across the eons to every living being that walks the earth today. We come from one land, one origin, a single cradle that nurtured life in its earliest forms. Every river that flows, every mountain that rises, and every forest that breathes carries within it the memory of that ancient unity. There is a profound poetry in this thought, a gentle reminder that beneath the diversity of continents and the multitude of species, there was once a singular whole. It is tempting to imagine standing on the shores of a vast inland sea, looking out over endless stretches of land that reach toward the horizon. The wind, warm and dusty, brushes against the skin, carrying scents of primordial forests, ferns, and moist soil. In the quiet, one can almost hear the heartbeat of the planet, slow and steady, resonating with the rhythm of life. The unity of Pangea was not just geological. It was the foundation upon which life itself unfolded, a shared origin from which countless species would eventually emerge and disperse. There is an elegance in understanding that our differences are mere ripples upon the surface of an ancient connection. Birds singing on separate continents, mammals roaming distant forests, and even humanity itself all trace their ancestry back to a time when the world was undivided. Pangea stands as a symbol, not of loss, but of connection, reminding us that no matter how far we wander, there is a shared story that binds us to the earth and to each other. In reflecting upon this unity, one cannot help but sense the gentle cycles of existence, the ebb and flow of life mirrored in the slow drift of continents. Each separation, each ocean forming between lands, is part of a larger rhythm, a cosmic dance that shapes the destiny of life. The very act of drifting apart is itself a continuation of the Earth's silent meditation, a testament to the patient unfolding of time. As the supercontinent fragmented, the memory of togetherness remained, etched into the bones of the earth and the veins of living creatures. When we walk across distant lands, swim in vast oceans, or gaze at star-filled skies, we are touching echoes of a shared past, remnants of the world that was once whole. There is a quiet, almost sacred beauty in this realization, a beauty that encourages humility, awe, and reverence for the long journey of our planet. And yet the reflection is not solely philosophical. It is profoundly emotional. To know that life emerged from a united land instills a sense of kinship with all living things. The forests, the deserts, the oceans, they are not separate from us but threads in the same tapestry, woven during a time when the Earth spoke in one voice. Each crack that formed in Pangea, each ripple of magma beneath its crust, is a reminder that separation is natural, that division is not an end, but part of an ongoing story that began in unity and continues in our present. Pangea's legacy is not simply a scientific fact, it is a meditation on connection, on the bonds that transcend time and distance. Even as continents drift and species evolve, the memory of that singular land lives quietly within us. It is a gentle invitation to pause, to contemplate the delicate threads that tie all life together, and to recognize that from one land came infinite stories, infinite journeys, and infinite dreams. The ancient supercontinent, though long vanished from sight, remains alive in imagination. Its unity, its patient existence, and its eventual fragmentation all teach that the Earth is not just a stage, but a living, breathing narrative. A narrative that we are still part of, shaped by its rhythms, its beauty, and its enduring connection. Over countless millions of years, the cracks that had begun to form beneath Pangea deepened, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, the supercontinent began to drift apart. The Earth, in its timeless patience, orchestrated this great separation with a rhythm that was both deliberate and graceful. Vast plates, massive beyond comprehension, glided like slow-moving ships across the molten underworld, carrying with them mountains, rivers, and forests that had witnessed the quiet reign of an ancient world. As the continents separated, oceans began to swell between them. Panthalassa, the great global sea, stretched farther and farther, wrapping its deep blue arms around newly forming coastlines. The Tethys Sea, once a narrow passage of warm water, expanded its reach, cradling islands and shallow seas where early marine life thrived. The world was no longer a single expanse of land. It had become a mosaic of continents, each carving its own climate, its own ecosystems, its own quiet stories. Forests that had once sprawled uninterrupted across Pangea began to divide, and life adapted to these emerging boundaries, Reptiles, amphibians, and early dinosaurs followed the shifting terrain, spreading into new habitats, discovering fresh rivers, valleys, and plains. The separation of landmasses allowed species to evolve in unique ways, developing traits and behaviors tailored to the new landscapes they inhabited. The Earth's biodiversity, already immense, began to expand even further, nurtured by the slow, deliberate drift of continents. The climate transformed as well. Deserts grew in places once lush and humid, while coastal regions embraced the warmth of tropical seas. Mountain ranges, uplifted by tectonic pressures, cast shadows over valleys, creating microclimates that would shape evolution for millennia. Seasonal cycles, once shared across a unified landmass, now varied from one continent to another. The planet, in its slow dance of division, was entering a new chapter, preparing for the age of dinosaurs and the remarkable diversity that would follow. There is a quiet poetry in observing these monumental changes. From above, one could watch the continents slowly moving apart, their edges carving intricate coastlines and peninsulas. Volcanoes continued to breathe molten fire, shaping islands and volcanic chains, while rivers traced delicate patterns across newly formed landscapes. The Earth was alive with motion, yet the pace was so gradual, so measured, that to the observer it seemed almost eternal, a silent testament to the patience of geological time. Life itself mirrored the Great Drift. Herds of early dinosaurs moved across plains that were slowly widening into separate continents. Predators and prey adapted to new territories, rivers and mountains, and the balance of ecosystems shifted in a delicate, ongoing choreography. The oceans, too, were teeming with creatures that navigated the expanding waters, their migrations reflecting the subtle changes in coastlines and currents. Every movement of land and sea shaped the possibilities for life, writing a new chapter on the canvas of Earth. The separation of Pangea was not a violent tearing, but a patient unfolding, a gradual evolution of space and opportunity. What was once singular became plural, yet the memory of unity remained imprinted in the continent's shapes, in the fossils buried deep within mountains and plains. The Earth was stepping into the modern world, not with haste, but with the deliberate grace of a storyteller revealing a long-awaited chapter. And as the Great Drift continued, the world began to resemble the map we know today, though still in its infancy. North and South America, Africa, Eurasia, and the lands that would one day become Australia and Antarctica, each carried the legacy of Pangea, each part of a narrative that spanned hundreds of millions of years. The drift was more than a geological process. It was the birth of a modern world, a transformation of the planet's very character, setting the stage for new climates, new oceans, and new life to flourish in ways the Earth had never known before. The continents, drifting like ancient ships across a vast ocean, heralded the next era. Forests reshaped, oceans expanded, and life continued its quiet evolution, all under the watchful eye of a planet moving in slow, deliberate harmony. The Earth had completed its great act of separation, and in doing so, it had begun the slow, wondrous narrative of the modern world.